Actor George Wendt, who was best known for playing Norm Peterson on the hit TV show Cheers, has died.
How does a man who got kicked out of college with zero acting experience manage to get an entire nation shouting his name every week for a decade?
Afternoon, everybody. Norm! Hey, Norm! Hey, Norm! Oh, Norm!
Now that chant echoing every time the door to the Cheers bar swung open wasn't just a greeting, it was a moment millions of Americans eagerly awaited each week for 11 years. Austin Bar, where everyone knows your name is remembering George Wendt the Cheers, actor who played the lovable grump Norm behind the legendary Norm Peterson, was George Wendt, who passed away at 76, leaving us with a question: who was the man behind that iconic call? A glamorous Hollywood star with a mansion and a fleet of sports cars, or just a down-to-earth guy from Chicago who got expelled from university and nearly never set foot on a stage? George Wendt, the man who won America's heart, lived a life full of contradictions, a supporting actor who became a central icon, a lazy beer-loving slob on screen who in reality was a tireless worker. Off-screen, George W.'s story isn't just an actor's journey. It's a ballad of friendship, perseverance, and the simple moments that create a legend. So, let's raise a glass, turn back the clock, and uncover the untold secrets of his remarkable life, and why even now that George Wendt is gone, the cry of Norm will forever echo in the hearts of millions. George Robert Wendt Jr. was born on October 17, 1948 in Chicago, Illinois, into a bustling family of 9 siblings. There were no stage lights or glittering Hollywood dreams in his early years, just the ordinary rhythm of life in the Beverly neighborhood, filled with street baseball games and lively family dinners. His father, George Sr., was a Navy officer, while his mother, Loretta, was a formidable woman who urged her children to chase their passions. But George wasn't the standout kid. He described himself as an average boy, a bit lazy, more into snacks and TV than hitting the books at Jesuit high school. He wasn't a star student or an athletic hero. In fact, he got kicked out of the University of Notre Dame in his junior year for dismal grades, a blow that left the 20-year-old wondering, what am I going to do with my life? The answer came unexpectedly. Like a cold beer on a sweltering summer day, a friend dragged George to a workshop at Chicago's Second City, the legendary comedy troupe that birthed icons like John Belushi and Bill Murray. At first, George saw it as a lark, a way to pass the time. But when he stepped onto the stage under the dim glow of the lights with the first ripple of laughter from the audience, something clicked. I'm no good at math or basketball, but I can make people laugh. From 1974 to 1980, Second City became his second home. He honed the art of improv-crafted characters, and most crucially learned to transform his everyday charm into magnetic charisma. Late-night performances, small roles in comedy sketches, and plenty of on-stage flops forged him into something greater. But what drove a college dropout with no clear direction to take a gamble on the risky world of performance? And how did a man who called himself nothing special rise to become an icon for an entire generation? That question found its answer in 1982 when George Wendt walked into an audition for Cheers, a new NBC sitcom. Initially, he was just trying out for a minor role as Norm Peterson, a beer-loving accountant who parked himself at the bar's corner tossing out witty one-liners. But from the very first episode, something magical happened. As Norm strolled into the bar and the ensemble cast shouted Norm in unison, the audience roared with laughter, and George knew he'd stumbled onto something monumental. This wasn't just a supporting role, it became the heart of Cheers, a show that spanned 11 seasons, 275 episodes, and is hailed as one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. George Wendt's Norm Peterson was the quintessential everyman, a beer enthusiast, a bit of a slacker, but warm-hearted and fiercely loyal. Every line Norm delivered was a gem of humor. When asked, "How's it going, Norm?" he'd quip, "Same as always, just a little worse." Or, when talking about his wife Vera, who was never fully seen on screen, Norm could bring the house down with, Vera says she loves me, but I think she's just in love with my wallet if it ever had any cash. These weren't just funny lines, they were authentic, mirroring the everyday worries of millions of viewers. George turned Norm into the friend everyone wished they had, always there ready with a story and a cold one. What few fans realize is that George didn't just play Norm, he helped shape him in a rare 1990 interview he shared. That many of Norm's lines were drawn from his own Chicago roots. "I grew up in little dive bars where everybody knew your name. Norm was a blend of the guys I met. There, they didn't have much money, but they had incredible stories. Even the iconic Norm chant was George's brainchild, inspired by a Chicago bar where regulars were greeted with the same enthusiasm that small detail turned Cheers into a cultural phenomenon, with Norm echoing everywhere from TV shows to real-life taverns. George's career didn't end with Cheers. His work stretched across the big screen television and Broadway. Showcasing remarkable versatility, he popped up in films like Fletch, 1985, alongside Chevy Chase, The Little Rascals, 1994, and even Spice W World, 1997, a quirky cameo as a film producer driven to the brink by the Spice Girls. He also took on Broadway, playing Edna Turnblad in Hairspray 2007-08, where he stunned audiences with his singing and dancing, prompting gasps of "Norm can dance, but Cheers" remained his pinnacle. 6 consecutive Primetime Emmy nominations, 1984-1989, underscored his talent. Though he never took home the award, in one interview he chuckled, "6 nominations and no wins. I'm more like Norm than I thought, always trying." Never quite crossing the finish line after Cheers, George Wendt didn't chase Hollywood's glitz. Instead, he embraced a quiet, contented life with his wife, Bernadette Burkett, the voice of Vera and Cheers' The Three Children. Hilary Jo and Andrew Bernadette, whom he met at Second City, was his soulmate. A little-known gem for fans. She once appeared in a Cheers episode as a different character, not Vera, and the two cracked up filming it because we had to pretend we didn't know each other on screen. Their marriage, spanning over 4 decades, was a rare gem in the world of showbiz. In his later years, George stepped back from major roles. He popped up briefly in Seinfeld, The Simpsons, and focused on his family and small theater endeavors. He also dabbled in writing and publishing. As aging set in, Norm's fans treasured his genuine voice in Drinking with George, 2009, a funny memoir about his love of beer and his Cheers days. It wasn't a box office hit, but they loved hearing their favorite barfly tell a story at the counter. George continued to live a more sedate life in Chicago, visiting local bars where he was met with chants of normalcy. But his health started to deteriorate, even though no formal cause of death was disclosed. We are devastated to lose George, a cherished husband, father, grandfather, and talented actor who brought joy and laughter to millions through Norm and his other roles. We are incredibly grateful for the love and support from fans during this trying time. On May 20th, 2025, a family member posted on X to announce that he passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by loved ones at the age of 76. Cheers. Stars and industry peers also expressed their deep gratitude. On Instagram, Ted Danson, who portrayed Sam Malone, posted, "George was a wonderful friend, a brilliant actor, and the heart of our show. His smile and wit were irreplaceable. I'll miss him forever." George wasn't just a phenomenal actor, but a genuinely kind man. "Working with him was a joy, and I'm devastated by this news," said Rhea Perlman, who played Carla Tortelli. George brought Norm to life in a way no one else could. "He was a true legend, and I'm honored to have worked alongside him," added Kelsey Grammer, also known as Frasier Crane. "George was the soul of Cheers. He made us all laugh on screen and off." "Thank you for everything, Norm," commented John Ratzenberger, who portrayed Cliff Clavin. On X, a fan said, "Every time Norm walked into the bar and everyone shouted Norm, it felt like home. Thank you, George Wendt, for the joy." Fans shared their fondest memories of Wendt on social media. "I fell in love with Cheers because George Wendt made Norm the friend we all wished we had," according to another shared story. Even though he wasn't Hollywood's biggest star, George Wendt was the friend that millions of viewers had clinked glasses with for a very long time. a Chicago college dropout. He transformed everyday occurrences into legendary moments that had everyone chant "normal" whenever he entered the room. His death on May 20, 2025 left a void, but his legacy of joy, camaraderie, and a feeling of acceptance endures in the hearts and cheers of supporters somewhere in an everlasting bar. Norm continues to sit at the counter, sipping a cold beer and uttering a line that makes everyone laugh. If you pay carefully enough, you can still hear Norm's echo, which serves as a reminder that even the most basic actions may have the most profound effects. What will you remember about George Wendt? A funny joke, a kind smile, or simply the comforting sensation of watching him on screen? Whatever it is, George left behind a legacy that makes us laugh and occasionally cry.